So today we are talking about developmental disorders and disabilities, so and health in general, I think as well. Um, Dr. Reddy, thank you for joining us again. Thank you for spending time with us and sharing your wisdom. We appreciate it.
It's a pleasure, Prenisha, and always good to be in the company.
Thank you so much. So, if you could kindly tell us what are developmental disorders or disabilities? What are those?
Prenisha, just in summary, right? It often refers to what we call a long-term problem, or which call is in medical terms a severe chronic condition of disability of an individual that's attributed to two aspects. One is a mental aspect, and one is a physical aspect, right? Or sometimes a combination of both. The mental and the physical, right? It can be both or can be separate. And it's a period of things that sometimes starts even before birth, and some of the things happen during birth. And what we call some of the conditions are known as genetic disorders, and the other one we known as epigenetic from the external of disabilities. And but I think that the things that we're going to cover tonight, I think some of them stems from a genetic and some from an epigenetic, and things like autism and ADHD. So there's no signs to show that it's definitely a genetic disorder, but the indications are showing more that it's an epigenetic from the external factors. But
Mm,
cerebral palsy and fetal alcohol syndrome and Down syndrome comes
mm,
from some genetic aspect, and the fetal alcohol syndromes comes from parental contact when the ova and the sperm fusion and starts at
mm,
that time. But it can
mm,
be from both the mother and the father as well, both on both sides before conception. But obviously during conception, when the mother is pregnant, and that condition is exacerbated more. So those are the things I think we're going to cover tonight. I think it's an exciting agenda, but we'll try to discuss it as we go, and maybe we can pause a little bit and get the question and answers as we uh, generate discussion.
sure. How can parents or people identify if somebody has a disorder or disability? Let's say, because nowadays technology allows parents to detect whether there is a disability while the baby is still developing, if I'm correct. But
Yes, definitely. Right.
now, when you're a teenager and an adult, how does one then identify if you do have a disability or disorder when it comes to like ADHD and stuff like that?
Okay, let's maybe the two conditions that you need to be very alert for is ADHD and autism. I think those are the conditions that I think parents need to be very watchful and
Mm-hmm.
very cognizant of the fact and how they play this role in terms of identifying how to help children to cope with it. I think the first thing about let's talk a little first about the ADHD, which I think talking to people during the week and even towards the latter part of last week. And I didn't realize that it's such a common thing. And,
Yeah.
and some people are saying that the percentage could be high as between 35 and 45% of people of ADHD or potential ADHD children. And obviously it affects adults as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the first sign of that is one is a lack of focus, is a lack of concentration, and the other aspect is the third one is that it's a very linear thing. For example, that they when I say linear, it's in relation to a brain function, what you call the right brain, left brain. So children who are more ADHD, they tend to be more right brain dominated. So they more tend to be artistic, more musically inclined, more artistically inclined, and more in the terms of the humanities of study. And
Mm-hmm.
unlike the left brain, who are more organized, who are the mathematicians, are more disciplined, and all that. So that's the first sign of them. And they often lose, they're very easy distracted and lose focus. And for example, they'll start a task and they leave a task and do another task, and and they may get bored very easily and quickly. So I think those are the signs. But I think then that's the fourth one. The fifth one is the aspect of these signs. Sometimes it's related to the kind of pregnancy they've had in terms of the mother and the father, as I said, the sperm and the ovary, and related to a dietary disorder. And I think the dietary disorder definitely affects the children in terms of concentration, that parents who have during pregnancy and during conception have been on a high carbohydrate diet, and these kinds of things that produce an acid reaction and has a cascading effect on children's focus and cascading effect. So the reason I'm highlighting that aspect of the diet before conception and during pregnancy, because that's extrapolated in the kind of diet that the mother has or the children has at a younger age. Right? I'll
Mm.
give you an example that if they have sweets and chocolates and a lot of high sugar diet, they become hyperactive, they lose concentration and focus. And if they have a lot of junk foods and what's called known as fast foods, naturally that
Mhm.
foods which are cooked under quick and fast food with a high vibration state that affects the children's orientation in terms of the focus and discipline. So diet is an important part of exacerbation of the ADHD problem.
Yes. We have a question here, Dr. Reddy. It says, does age being pregnant affect this also? So the older you are and you then get pregnant, are your kids more susceptible to getting ADHD or autism or any of these developmental disorders? Does age play a
Yeah, I
factor?
think yeah, I think those in the other parts of the topic that you got is in terms of cerebral palsy. I think mothers who will give birth to children at a later stage, I think cerebral palsy is there's some signs to show that definitely the mothers who are pregnant on that definitely I think those children can be. But in relation to ADHD, there's no signs to show that older mothers that produce children are prone to ADHD.
Okay.
It doesn't. But definitely the lifestyle of the mother, then the vibration of the child that affects the incoming child will definitely
Mm.
affect the ADHD. And that's why I say to young mothers and young parents, before they get pregnant, there's a need for preparation and the science of it in terms of astrology, in terms of the timing, in
Mm.
terms of the mindset, in terms of creating the climate for conception. I think is important. Yeah. So,
Yes.
so, 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 so it's almost like creating a recipe or baking a cake, right? So
Mm.
like that, if you want to,
Yes, yes.
right, right. So if you want to bring up in a familyhood, I think as husband and wife, you need to dialogue it and engage it, or get some counseling, and what's a
Mm.
preparation for it in terms of getting pregnant, and if you fall pregnant and the child to be, what are the ingredients for preparation of this? So I think the mother gets prepared from a mind perspective, and the father, because the reason for that is important for husband and wife to be on the same journey as a pregnancy. Joe, that by the nature of pregnancy, it happens in women. But I think the supportive nature from the emotional quotient of the father and the grandparents to support the mother, I think is critical. So when you have a very balanced emotional quotient, so the correct vibrations are generated. I'll give you an example, right?
Mm-hmm.
To create a calmative atmosphere in the house, calm, tranquility, and to know that the pregnant mother is not stressed out. Make sure she has a balance between work and between and a prayerful life and a home, a balance in terms of activity. So I think these are important ingredients. So in the pregnancy, so the father plays a big role as well in supporting the wife. In terms of the correct vibrations, all about vibrational state. If the good vibrations are there in a calmative, patient atmosphere, the child is born is also in a patient. That's the reason why I tell young mothers and young fathers that the prayer for whichever God you pray to, whether you pray to Islam, whether you pray to Christianity, doesn't matter. But you must generate the prayerfulness around the mother. Even I tell the fathers is to touch the mother's womb and pray for the incoming child. So you
Yeah.
create the bond between the father, the mother, and the child. And the little things and the power of touch and the power of music. And there's some
Mm.
science to show that if you play the correct music for the child while he's in the womb, And for
Mm.
example, that if you read the Quran, and while the mother is pregnant, and the child will generate the vibration of the prayerful aspect of the Quran. We read the Bible, the same sort. We read the Gita, whatever it may be, right? So I think it affects the child positively to know that any prayer generates positive vibration.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
What advice would you have for people who are getting married at a later age and would then want children? So we're talking like late 30s, early 40s. There's a lot of people that are getting married much later in life. What advice would you have for them when it comes to
Yeah,
pregnancy?
yeah, it's a very interesting thing that you're saying about marriage getting later. In fact, I think it's a worldwide thing, including South
Yeah.
Africa. And I remember reading a study done by one of the human science research institute, saying that when young people are a little more mature in terms of that, and in terms of the age factor, they often have happier marriages, right?
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
and because they're more in a balanced stage, and basically they know what the journey of life is about. And I
Yeah.
think it's very important to realize that there's nothing wrong with getting married a little older. I think
Yeah.
the idea of marriage, I think, is a fantastic thing of older because they're more mature. But the
Mm.
important thing is to realize that when you get older, everything, as I said earlier on, is a recipe, right? So to say that it's about, we're getting married, husband and wife. My wife is 35, the husband is 37, for example, and we're
Mm-hmm.
getting married, and we want to have two children. So my
Yeah.
advice that have the children as soon as possible,
Mm-hmm.
but the counseling effect, either by a psychologist, or by a midwife, or by a doula, whatever it is, to get the climate correctly to prepare for familyhood is very important. I give you
Mm.
an example, right? So if they decide to get married, they must know that what is the correct nutrition we need to produce the right child that's going to be born. What's the
Yeah.
correct emotional state, the vibration with them? What is the journey of the mother needs to be the balance between work and home and generation of income. So we mustn't be stressed out when you're pregnancy, is that we need to work harder, we need to buy. So the idea is that the simpler you live in your emotions, and you're more patient, and you're more persevered about your journey, and that produces the best outcome. The
Yes.
the third thing is that they must understand that familyhood is a journey of life. So when you
Mm.
prepare to have children to come, that you must be able to realize that I'm sharing, doing things I didn't do before. For example, not having alcohol. I would definitely do that. Having foods of a high vibration state, less densified food, having fresh food, less canned food, less packaged foods. And I
Mm.
think these are very important things. And there's a whole big criteria to say that what is the optimal nutrition the mother should have
Yeah.
pre-pregnancy, during pregnancy, and I think it's very important is to prepare for this accordingly.
Yes. You touched on astrology, when it comes to conceiving and things like that. But I just wanted to ask, what is the relationship between somebody who has disabilities or disorders and karma, or parents who have kids who now have disorders, and how does that affect karma? How does karma play in the whole thing?
Yeah, I've said in one of my previous talks is that, in the world we're born 8.4 million times, from a
Mm,
unicellular structure to a multicellular structure. So when you realize that in this world that we are all generally, we are souls that are reborn, and reborn, reconfigured in some way.
yeah.
Definitely, the laws of karma plays what's called cause and effect of life,
Mm-hmm.
and from past lives, and that in the journey of life we don't know in what space you are. They say in the spiritual world, you're 7 worlds below and the 7 worlds above.
Mm-hmm.
So in the journey of life, when you reach the 7 worlds below, 7 worlds above, when you liberate yourself, you don't know in which part of the 14 worlds you left the physical body. So often you have to come back, and you have to go through those remaining worlds of journeys of life to liberate yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
during that time, there may be a few incidences that happen in your life. For example, that maybe that you were a example that an autism child or ADD child, or whatever it may be, and you have to
Mm-hmm.
come back in this time to take care of a child of the same kind of form, because somebody else took charge of you or care for you when you had autism. So it's
Mm.
about balance of the scales and of knowing that. So do not look at this life as only in one spectrum, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
coming back to your cursory comment about astrology and all that, right? We often say that the rising of the new of the moon, of what they call new moon, and the rising of the
Mm.
sun, the energy periods of conception is very important in terms of the right energy aspect. And we talk about numbers of numerology, and it's another topic by itself, but it's a very interesting topic about how do we get to the spirit of oneness, because when the sperm and the ova fuse together, so you have two ova and sperm. That's one plus one makes two, but two divided by two becomes one. So everything becomes oneness. So when we generate
Mm.
children in the world, it's all generate one from two different entities of sperm and ova. So
Mm.
it's a very important thing is that to download that, and you can prepare yourself accordingly in terms of giving birth at an auspicious time.
Yes. Now,
Yeah.
say if parents then now do give birth to a child with developmental disorders or any disability, sometimes people then think it's a punishment, or God is punishing me, I did something wrong, God hates me. What do you then say to those people who have um disabled children in the family? Do you see it as a punishment?
No, I think it's a great liberating aspect of life, to thank the Lord above, for giving me the
Mm.
opportunity that that in an unknown fact of my past lives, that now I'm endowed with this soul here. It's my journey of life to fulfill my mandate or what happened in my past life to ensure that I able to fulfill this soul's journey and give it my best shot, and
Mm.
I give you example like my experience with Down syndrome children. They were absolutely wonderful souls. They're loving,
Mm.
they're caring, they're full of smiles in their own way. If you give them love, the love will come back to you, right? So I
Yeah.
think you must look at it as an opportunity to address your cause and effect or your karmas of life by
Mm.
serving these souls in this world. Do not look at it upon God never punishes. God only graces and blesses. We as human, yeah, as part of humanity and souls in this world, we create our own journey, right, for
Mm.
this life and the next life, right, as the difficulties as we all have in this life and challenges. But we have the responsibility to heal yourself, and what is
Mm.
the science behind it, in order to play the part, uh, because if you get a fracture of your hand, you heal within yourself. So you have the
Yes.
power to serve yourself, being happy with this child that God has allowed you. So don't look at it as a punishment. Look at it as an opportunity to serve yourself, but by balancing the laws of nature.
Yeah.
Right? And the
Yes.
most important thing, you must be happy in yourself to serve the child that you gave birth. Right?
Mm.
It's part of your DNA, right? And it's a part of you, and the child is not separate to you.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. People don't realize how powerful DNA actually is. Even the structure, I think I touched on it on Monday. Even the structure of DNA is very powerful when it comes to energy and the way energy flows, and that blood has some significance in there when it comes to healing and breaking those generational curses or conditioning. It has a
Yeah.
lot to do with DNA.
Yeah, and it's fascinating what you're saying. Now, Prenisha, at the University of Cape Town, they have a center of genetic engineering, right?
Oh, wow, yeah.
And it's going to become so fascinating to know that we can integrate this into medical sciences now. They could do predictabilities in terms of what potential birth that the mother may give
Mm,
in this life, right? And
mm,
also to determine, for example, when the ovary and the sperm merges together, in terms of
mm,
what potential problems the child may have in life. You can actually circumvent certain medical conditions by
mm.
by integrating genetic engineering.
Yeah. Wow.
You
That's
know.
gonna be fascinating to see.
Yes, yes, and for example, if you take a sample of population today in the world today, and or let's say, for example, that Prenisha's family and parents and grandparents, if we could do on the lineage line, and we collect all the data in terms of the features and the historical health perspective, and using a
mm.
bit of actuarial sciences, right? And we could do what you call, projection, and using a bit of artificial intelligence, I could do some predictability of what the possibilities of Prenisha's children going to look like or be like.
Wow. That's gonna be fun. That's fun.
Yeah,
Also,
yeah.
I also worked with special needs kids, with Down syndrome and things like that. And I always used to tell everybody that we don't call them special needs because they need attention or they're difficult or whatever. I feel we call them special needs is because they're actually special beings. I feel whenever I'm around kids with special needs, it feels like they have a different vibration and different frequency. And I think you also said this in the beginning. They use different parts of their brain, and that also stimulates different frequencies and vibrations. And they can do things we can't, they can see things we can't, they can hear things we can't. So I feel that they are special, not because they people think they're stupid or disabled. It's because they have the abilities that we don't have. But that's just how I see it. Open to
Yeah, yeah, no, no.
everybody's open to their own
I,
opinion.
I think I think you're spot on. I must tell you a lovely story. When I was
Mm,
during my infancy, and my mother's brother, and he was very attuned to do selfless service what you call the at the Blind Institute in Durban, and
mm,
every one of our birthdays used to be celebrated at this institute, right? So it's amazing that when you talk to these so-called blind children, but they're so attentive, but they got so many other good attributes of themselves, and now obviously with Braille and these things, and they're able to see and read in a different way. But I think the laws of nature such that there's a compensation of these people. And I love what you said. These are gift for the world, and what they've got a special need, in terms of their own giving of the world, to show us that even with the deprivation of sight, you can do many other things that in a positive way.
absolutely. Yes. So
Yeah.
now, when parents sometimes, when you have kids with disabilities or disorders, it does sometimes take a toll on the parents. You can get tired, you can get drained, sometimes you can feel discouraged as well. What advice do you have to parents like that? What can they do to sort of get them out of this fatigue or thinking lowly about themselves, sometimes even depression? What advice do you have for them?
Yeah, I think the first thing, Prensha, they need to be confident in themselves. They have done the right thing in the world because the intention was pure and noble when they gave birth to the child. The
Yes.
second thing is that they must not feel as if they've been punished in this world. Thirdly, is that they must feel that they are not something unique, whereby something is wrong with them,
Mm,
or with the children, or with children by itself, or the child, right?
mm,
Fourthly, is that they must understand that they must feel that they're part of society, and or the laws of creation has given them this birth of this child, in order to do something special. So,
mm,
for example, that when the Down syndrome child is there, and you take care of them with a lot of love and care, they respond to you. They will
mm.
heal you, and by allowing you to uh, be healed by you giving the love, and they'll give love back to you. So I
Yeah.
think that you must continually tune into it's like a radio frequency, right? How do you
Yes.
tune into the radio station that gives you peace of the world? So it's about
Mm,
constantly and constant integrated awareness of tuning into this dial, that of love and of gratefulness, of humility and thankfulness and gratitude to the Lord, to say thank you for giving me this soul to serve
yeah.
this child, right? And I
Yeah.
think that if you have that gratitude continuously, and you connect up with the universe, with the
Mm,
Lord above, I think that you may realize that you're not alone in this world. There are many,
yeah.
many other parents with you in this journey. And I think that when you believe that you will support structure, and high support is the Lord of the universe,
Mm,
but also as a family, as parents and other children together, and as grandparents, as brothers and sisters, to know that everybody needs to come together to play this role.
Mm.
When families that live together and share together, they're happy together,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
And I think the
Yeah.
support structure is very clear. And must remember something also. There are many supportive agencies existing there. For example, there is a Down syndrome society, there's a cerebral palsy society. There is these societies to help and assist you in this journey. So don't think that if you're feeling low and you call up a helpline, the live lines and to support you and besides your own family. But
Mm.
do not look at this as a burdensome in yourself. So when you feel depressed, you must realize that. Thank the Lord above for giving me the opportunity to serve. Right? I'm going to be happy. I am happy, and nobody can get
Mm.
me down. I think you have to generate the confidence within yourself.
Yeah, yeah, I agree there. Now, when it
Yeah.
comes to medicines for people and children with these disabilities, um, sometimes the medicines can be too strong, sometimes they're very expensive. Are there alternatives to the medicines? Do we have natural medicines? I know you did touch on nutrition, and I think that's very important as well. But are there other ways in which we can remedy the disorders in a natural manner where it's not so strong and we're not out of it all the time? Is
Yeah,
there anything
yeah,
else
okay,
we can do?
okay. I just want to take about the ADD and ADHD, right, which is a very what you call one of the most common things and one of the biggest challenges that parents are facing today in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, uh, commonly given medicine, like almost given like Smarties in some of the schools,
Yeah.
and many schools
Mm.
are giving this what they call is Concerta and Ritalin. Now,
Yeah.
and these children have short-term effects, and in terms of children concentration, uh, get them to study, and in terms of doing well. But the effect makes the children lose a smile line, makes the children become robotic, and
Yeah.
almost become like zombies in the world.
Yeah.
So and one of my missions is to take the children away from concert and Ritalin, as I said last week. And what is alternative? Number one is about the habits. The first habit is that in people who are ADD and ADHD, get them to breathe rhythmically,
Mm.
right? Alternative
Yeah.
to breathing. So that's the first thing that should be done. The second
Mm.
thing is that done and understand what the children like to do. Work on the likes. If they like a lot of artwork, tune into them, give them artwork to
Mm.
do, like music, get into music. Get them to
Yeah.
play music, get them to hear music. There's a sign to show that if you listen to the correct tunes of Mozart and Beethoven and some of the other classical pieces of music, it
Mm-hmm.
helps to integrate right brain and left brain together,
Mm.
right? So these are the
Yeah.
natural things that you can do. And to understand that there's some exercises to do for children to
Mm-hmm.
coordinate the exercise. One of the exercises that I recommend is a trampoline, where you balance your yin yang. It's a simple
Yeah.
exercise to do, not an expensive exercise to do,
Yeah.
right? And the other
Mm.
one is the skipping rope, and you get the child to skip, right?
Mm.
Right, and then there are yogic exercises to do, right? And those are the physical things. Now, the subtler things are the natural medication, right, to
Mm-hmm.
do. Now, in order to medication, but it has to be done in conjunction with the correct diet. You have to take the children of high sugar diet of a high carbohydrate, lower the sugars, lower the carbohydrates, right,
Mm.
which I think very important. And
Mm.
fast foods, sugars and fast food and high carbohydrate affects concentration levels, make children fatigue and tired, right?
Yeah. Mm.
Now, the alternative to that is about giving them live foods like fresh food, fresh sprouts, chickpeas, and nuts, and the quantities of fruits and these kinds of things. From
Mm.
the point of view of natural medication, which we normally recommend is something called it's in a raw form called Brahmi powder. Brahmi powder, and you can give a teaspoon in the porridge, a teaspoon in the hot drink, or and you can digest that. That's what concentrate. Now, the reformed fine of Brahmi powder, right? It's packaged in two forms. One is in mentat, and the other one is in keen mind,
Okay.
right?
What is
So,
Brahmi? Sorry. What is Brahmi? Like, what is it made
uh,
of? What is?
Brahmi is from the bark of a tree, from the root of a tree.
Oh, okay.
It's a
Okay.
natural thing, right? And
Mm-hmm.
in Ayurvedic medicine, that they often would administer that, and to give the children this. Now, florists from the Switzerland, they've gone
Mm-hmm.
to China and India, and they've set up a plant, and they refined the Brahmi plant and packaged it as keen mind, and the Himalayan
Mm-hmm.
product is called Mentat. Now,
Okay.
keen mind and Mentat are the two natural medications that can help and assist in terms of integration of right brain, left brain, and is to produce a better result. Then these
Mm.
people are taking a thing called biostrat, right? And parents have told me that also does help and assist. Then there is what you call there is omega 3 and omega 6, and
Yes.
right, either comes in the flaxseed oil, and
Yes.
which is in a very natural form. You buy the
Mm-hmm.
one that's in the refrigerator, and you give the child a one teaspoon twice a day,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yes.
that will help a lot. And I think the in fact the last thing in terms of the the form of administrative of medication is that to understand that as far as possible is to give them the medication in a veggie capsule. The reason for that, the uptake is faster in a veggie capsule, right?
Yes.
And that is the medicaments, right? There's another adjuvant to this is called the natural oils, like oils like this certain aromatherapy oil, whether it's black pepper, whether it's orange, whether it's geranium, rose oil. You can burn these oils, and it gives you natural fragrance that help the concentration of this child, right?
Mm.
And then there's a
Yes.
thing called plant therapy, right?
Mm-hmm.
To help this concentration. There are three plants which are significant. One is the chrysanthemum, one is the white lily, and the third one is the ficus benjamin. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
known fact that these three plants generate subtle aromas that affects your indication of right brain and left brain,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Wow.
So I hope that this can help people, in terms of the children by being more natural than more aggressive. But I can tell you something: music is a fantastic therapy. Music is a great tool, and to play music and dexterity on the piano or playing the
Mm-hmm.
violin, play the guitar, play the drums, because it's left brain and right brain together.
Yes.
You
I
know.
know we did touch on this previously in other lives, but just for the new viewers on here, when it comes to medical aids and natural medicines, are medical aids willing to pay for natural medicines now?
Yes, I think that there are some medical aid discovery and a few others. I think they and Prof Med, and I think they are beginning to accept, to realize that, before we talk about complementary medicine, now they're talking about integrated medicine. So integrated
Oh,
medicine, that means you integrate what's called of all of best practices, and definitely some of the medical aids are getting attuned to this now and realizing that allopathic medicine doesn't have all the answers, and we have to look at to working together integratively.
yes. Okay, so I have recently discovered that more and more adults are now being diagnosed with ADHD, um, and other disorders of, mental disorders. Why do you believe that is so? Why all of a sudden now, in your personal opinion, um, people are now being diagnosed with all of these, you know, attention and medical and mental disorders. Why all of a sudden now only? And has it got anything to do with the state in which the world is now and the energy and the vibration of the world now? Are people becoming more panicked? We don't know how to deal with stress and anxiety. So our mind is constantly thinking, have we been conditioned to constantly think and constantly to move around and things like that? Why are more and more adults being diagnosed with ADHD?
Yeah, I think that's a fascinating question, right? And in this current age of the 21st century, and
Mm,
more and more people, are tuned to what you just said now. I've been observing this very, very closely, and I integrated myself to get some answers into what you just said, and
yeah.
observing people into the situation here. Definitely, one of the things that I think we must consider is fast food, nutrition, and I think there's more KFCs around than ever before. There's more McDonald's around. There's more
Yeah.
steers around, and
Yeah.
everything is quick, quick, is quick and quick fast. And there's Uber Eats, and there's I think the fast foods are definitely affecting your vibration state. Anything that's cooked too
Mm,
quick, too fast, it definitely affects you. Anything that's
mm,
cooked with a slower heat and slower pace, the vibrations are obviously in a more balanced state, right?
mm,
So I think that that's the first thing. The second thing is that I think that the nature of people, they want quick answers, quick things. For example, that you've got on Google, you've got on Chat GPT, you want an essay to be done, and you go quickly, and you see this, and you go on Instagram, and everything is instant. So the fact is that we are so quick with these kinds of things. Is that as
mm,
somebody Alicia said in the comment here, fast food is
mm,
very addictive. Certainly, it's addictive and it's expensive. And
mm.
fast food creates fast brain. That means you don't have time to integrate life brain level to think rationally. But there's
Yes.
another addendum to this, right, Alicia, is that one is that the architecture, right, in terms of the vibration state. Obviously that is another topic, but just to introduce it over here in terms of what does architectures with low ceilings, many walls, and many passages, either in offices or houses, what does it do? It produces a
Mm,
thing called standing waves, and standing waves cuts across your personality and your right brain, left brain, and in fact, it creates more fatigue and more disorientation. As a result of that, you want more uptake. You have more coffees, more stimulus, and all that. But
mm,
it comes from an architectural discipline, right?
yeah.
Um, then the other external factors are on the roads. We see it on the roads. People want quick, fast driving. Everything is quick and fast. That tends to
Yeah.
cause a bit of disorientation.
Mm,
The third thing is that what we call the subtle effects of electromagnetic radiation, whether
mm-hmm,
it's through cell phones, whether it's through what you call multi-plugs at home, all these kinds of things, and you've got power lines across your houses, all this affects your vibration state. And for example,
mm,
if your water is not going down south or cutting across your house in terms of north to south, these kinds of things affects it. And the last thing I like to touch on about is technology, right?
mm,
And the science showing that every in 2015, every 30 seconds, somebody was sending a message. In 2023, every 2 seconds,
mm,
somebody is texting.
yeah.
Texting a message on whichever
Yeah.
platform it may be. So naturally, is that causes a lot of apprehension because you have a lot of quick answers. Now,
Mm,
what is the manifested aspect of young people, adults, and ADHD? We find that they tend to job hop a lot, right?
yeah.
They tend to be unsettled, and
Mm-hmm,
they don't tend to cultivate a career in for long term effects, and they'll often move the jobs for a few hundred and more, and they say,
mm,
and the next year, and the agency calls them up, and the agency says, I got a job from bank one to bank two, and then the year three, I got a bank three to rank four. So this is what happens. So everybody plays on young people's emotion, and
mm,
the sad thing is that this totally affects family life, affects individuals, because you
yeah.
don't become balanced in your perspective. It affects your relationships with your family and affects your
Mm,
relationship with the children, because there's no quick fix
mm,
in life. We have to understand that we are in the long haul of life. So the fact is that how do we get back a few steps in terms of remedying the problem?
yeah.
Naturally, this is about a lifestyle effect. So my experience that people who tend to be more ADHD, their more stress levels are higher.
Mm,
They have changed the blood pressure levels at a younger age, and they have also effect to the blood sugar levels.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Lisa says, put love into your food and cook, something I try to get my family to do. Yeah, we don't realize that just our energy can change things. And food, like water, there is scientific evidence that water picks up on frequencies. So you can even put love into water and drink it. You can put frequencies, to flush out parasites and AI and whatever and drink it. So food is a wonderful means of getting your love and your vibration and energy across. Um, I'm not sure if you agree, Dr. Reddy, when it comes to
Yes,
cooking.
yes, I'm a great believer of that. What you put in is what you get in. And there are
Mm,
many recipes today. I understand, in today's time, husband and wife are working. And I think that also it needs coexistence of execution of duty by husband and wife by sharing responsibilities. And definitely,
Mm,
I think that there are many recipes that you can generate. You can cook a meal in half an hour, and
mm,
by being accurate, being the correct mindset of food preparation, less complex food, but healthy foods. That will benefit the whole family. But
yeah,
the love that you pour into the food preparation, and that's what you will get out to heal the family. You heal yourself because you're the cook, and if I'm cooking, heal me. And there's no doubt. I love what you said about the energy of love. There's a beautiful science to this. In terms of your lifeline of love and giving. In your hand, you got your lifeline on your hand, right? And
yes,
the science is showing that the more love that you give out, the more lifeline extends.
yes. Actually, I think we should talk about this next week, Dr. Reddy. Um, Palmistry, if we can make that for next week. If you're
Yeah,
okay with that, I think that's
yeah. No, no,
funny
no.
we're talking about.
Yeah, no. Definitely, we'll talk a bit of palmistry and a bit of science of the numerology, and try to it's all about vibration effects and about the effect of the sun, the effect on the moon and the mind, and we could talk about
Yeah.
tangible things of nature, and about understand
Mm,
why water is important because of the prana, the pranic energy, the life force in water. Why you need to drink water all day, and what's the importance of
mm,
combination of food that affects your mindset.
yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and I
Now
think
let's
that
say, Mhm.
sorry.
No, no, continue.
Yeah, no, I think as a partly of a family lifestyle, imagine if the children and
Mhm.
the husband and wife preparing the food together, sharing the day's lessons and the chores or what happened, and it becomes almost like a spiritual event. In half an hour, the food can be done and cooked, and the other thing is that it's important to realize that is to sit down to a meal, and it's a tendency today of many families that they like to go and eat front of the television. And the fact is
Mm,
that the vibrations are affected with the television vibrations because the science is showing that if you have your meal done and if you pray on your food, and Korean
yes.
photography has shown that the aura around the food is different and positive, and people who don't pray around the food, the aura is different.
Mm, yeah,
Yeah,
that
so
makes
so
sense.
so so positive energy and love what you do around food is such a critical thing. That's the food you are ingesting.
Yes. And I think even
Yes.
when it comes to television and series and things we engage with on social media, I think a lot of it does influence you and influence your vibration. So even series that you're watching, um, does it help you learn? Does it help you expand? Does it help you grow? Or are you just, watching the drama and such things? And I think it's important to remember what you surround yourself with, it does affect your vibration, and therefore what you put out, like Dr. Ray says, what you put out, you get back. So if you constantly surrounding yourself with drama and ghetto-ness and angry people, it's what you will attract. So I think even when we watch TV or what we engaging with on social media also affects our vibration. Is that true, Dr. Reddy?
Yes, yes,
From my
yes, definitely.
understanding.
Yes, definitely. This is why I tell people at night, don't watch all these things which are unsavory and drama series at night because you sleep with that consciousness, right?
Yeah.
The fact is that you must sleep with happy thoughts. I'm not saying don't watch television, but I think our life shouldn't be. I mean, shouldn't be surrounded around television and cell phones. You go to a restaurant today, you sit down there, and family is sitting down. Each one is communicating with a cell phone, and you're
Yeah.
supposed to go out to a social event and communicate. So, I mean, I would like to suggest to the viewers that if you're going out, everybody leaves the phones in the car, or leaves the phones, or switch your phones off for the time
Yeah.
that you're dining together. And communication of the heart is more important than communication to the phone. I mean,
Mm.
I think it's important to understand that the beauty of life is a heart-to-heart communication.
Yeah.
So I always say the story. The television is dumb. Television doesn't talk to you, right?
Mm.
Right? You
Yeah.
just watch it. But you get so consumed by television. And remember something, television, the flick of the lights and everything also affects your concentration, affects your vibration state.
Mm,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Reddy, let's say now, I've been to the doctor. I've now been diagnosed with ADHD. I'm also going to bring in depression. So I've been diagnosed with all of these mental disorders, and they've given me a whole list of medications to take. What would your advice be to somebody as an adult who is now being diagnosed? Moving forward, what is the best option in your eyes when it comes to medicines and natural medicines and vibration and everything put together? Um, what would your advice be moving forward for a person?
Yeah. The tricky one is that if you're already on medication, that means the psychiatrist or the medical practitioner has put you on antidepressants and a range of medications in terms of your mood swings and in relation to your health situation. The challenge is that number one, you become addicted towards it. The
Yeah.
challenge number two, it affects you medically because all the strong medication affects your liver and affects your kidney function, right?
Mm.
On all these things. The
Yeah.
the third thing is that um, the cost of the medication is extremely high, right?
Mm.
And the fourth thing is that it tends to affect family life, right?
Yeah.
Right, because these things causes people to be literally technically addictive and drugged on this year, and naturally they're not in the space to communicate and is to engage people collectively in terms of social consciousness, and where it
Mhm.
affects children, affects husband-wife relationship, and it cascades down even to your working place. The
Yeah.
first thing is that my advice to anybody who's on these medications is to seek help, either by some sort of therapist, by counselor, and by energy healer, by psychologist, whichever avenue they feel comfortable is what. That's the first average, first challenge, and is
Mhm.
to once they got some counseling and in whatever form they take. The second stage of that, how do we get less dependent on the medication? So naturally is
Mm.
that you have to, they cannot wean them off medication overnight. You decrease your medication and you replace it with natural medication. What's it
Mm.
called? Natural mood swingers, the what you call the medication that promotes endorphins and serotonin and dopamine effects, and by music, exercises, and by
Mm.
certain neurochemicals, right, in terms of natural food states and these things. So I think that's the second thing. The third thing is that, what are the cause of the depression? I think you need to diagnose the cause of it. What was the trigger, right?
Yeah.
That whether it was a shock therapy, whether it's some incident that happened in the family life, is to address the cause. The
Yeah.
fourth thing is the fifth thing is that once we landscape this, we almost draw like a little Venn diagram of the whole issue of, for example, that what medication you're on, what caused it, whether you got the psychiatrist, whether you've gone to general practitioner or your counselor, right? You need to determine that, and then the side effects need to understand that effect. The fifth one is that how can I decrease this and replace it with natural medication, natural lifestyle? And the
Mm.
fifth thing is that to understand that help is always there. Never
Yeah.
think that you are alone in this world, right? There's somebody there willing to help, would engage with you, and do not go and swallow yourself into this isolated effect. Because realize that we're a collective consciousness, and there's somebody always willing to help and assist.
Yes.
Yeah, and the other aspect that I'm finding that this post-COVID, there's what we call long COVID effects, causing people side effects, of whatever happened during COVID time, and people are still recovering from it, and that's also causing some depressive effects. But I think the
Yeah.
sooner you get out of depression, the faster your improvement is. But it needs a lifestyle change, integratively.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Guys, if you have any comments or questions for Dr. Reddy, please put them into the comment section and we can ask Dr. Reddy while we have his attention right here, right now. So if you have any questions, please put them in the comments so we can ask Dr. Reddy. I
Yeah,
also found it very interesting. You know, when I said, are there any natural ways that one can sort of remedy the disorders? And when I was listening to you, it actually was very interesting that those things, even everybody can do it. It's not only for people with disorders. I feel everybody should watch their nutrition. Everybody should, pick up an instrument, learn something new. Um, do something that they enjoy and are passionate about. I don't feel like it's specific only to remedy disorders or disabilities. I feel each and every one of us should do it. I think to make our lives more full and more vibrant. I think a lot of us are stuck in this mentality that it's just work and home, work, bills, it's just mundane. And when we do certain things, when we engage in exercises, yoga, breathing. A lot of us have stress and anxiety. We forget to breathe, like our chest like closes up. And I feel like that advice is not only for people who have been diagnosed, but I think it's for everybody, especially living in today's day and age where everything is so stressful and prices and politics and crime, and it's just one negative thing over the other. I feel like that advice that you gave can help everybody be more positive, if that makes sense.
Yes, 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 yeah, yeah. Definitely. This extrapolates across the spectrum of society, and
Yeah.
I think the more that you realize that you can take charge of your life, you are the most important person, and if you take charge of the responsibility of life, and you can heal yourself better and contribute better, and in my practice, I always tell my patients this, that do not be dependent on me, because you have the power to generate your
Mm,
own energy to heal yourself. I'm just a
mhm,
crutch and the guide, but you have the power.
mm,
The power lies within you. There's nothing in the world that you cannot do. If you are focused, focused is a critical part of life, in terms of your energy center, is to be accomplished. Do not take too many things that, and with the unfinished task. Take one task at a time and make sure you finish it and complete it. Take another task. I think when you take a task like that, to realize that I can do it, I am confident that will do it, and then you build the building block. But this change you spoke about, Prenisha, I think that
mm,
when we generate it as individuals, as families, it becomes across the spine, it becomes a lifestyle change. So I mean, what do we want? We want a lifestyle that's constant and consistent. You know,
yes.
yeah.
In your
So
opinion, sorry. Yes, continue,
no,
continue.
no, no, no. Go ahead, go ahead.
In your opinion, do we have, so I believe we can, but I want to ask from somebody who's in the medical profession. Do you believe we have the ability to completely heal ourselves? So completely heal ourselves from the disorders, from cancers, from depression. Can we do it by ourselves, like heal from within?
Yes, I'm a great believer of this, right? And you can heal yourself. There's no doubt. I mean, the science says that if you get a fracture of your hand, a fracture of a bone anywhere in the body, you heal.
Mm-hmm.
Where you heal from? Within yourself.
Mm,
Right, right. So you have a
mm,
cell structure regeneration of tissue and reestablishing the neurological pathway, the veins in the artery. It shows that you got the power to heal yourself. There's
mm,
no doubt about it. But how do you get this positive energy, the positive mindset that's becomes concurrent and in tandem with your lifestyle changes, right?
mm,
And any condition, for example, right, there's a big drive internationally and the moment to decrease your blood pressure medication, decrease your blood sugar levels, and we
mhm,
know that the science is showing that people who are generally who are diabetic, for example, right? If they
mhm,
lose weight, right, decrease the carbohydrate, decrease the sugar intakes, right, and the sixth principal thing they need to decrease is your maize meal, normal rice, bread, pasta, pizzas, potatoes, right? The six
mm,
things and they decrease you lose weight naturally, but we can
yeah,
replace this with other healthy things,
mm,
I mean, for example, unpolished brown rice, brown basmati rice, rye bread, banting pizzas, sweet potatoes, madumbis, and and
mm,
millet and quinoa. So you could do
yeah,
the same thing, and you could reduce your insulin and your metformin and your glucophage, and the most important thing, you feel healthier.
yeah,
you
absolutely.
know Yes, and I think that there's nothing I believe that you cannot change. And certain natural antioxidants, you have, I always give this example. You either spend the money on healing yourself naturally,
Mm-hmm.
or you let yourself and become a consumerist by fast foods and expensive junk foods, and later on you have to pay the form of medication. You got a choice.
Yes.
And lots of
Mm.
things done naturally, and you empower yourself. For example, yoga and meditation and silent sitting, you empower yourself.
Mm.
I mean, it's nothing that you cannot do. I mean, it doesn't need a lot of costly things to do. Just regulate your mindset and become what you call discipline. And you see, and it's called the rule of 21. If you do things regularly every day for 21 days, you'll have an outcome. They say that a thought forms a habit, right?
Mm.
And executing a habit 21 days becomes a part of a lifestyle.
Mm.
you know
Yeah, I love
so
that.
there's nothing, Pranisha, I believe that you cannot do.
Yeah.
I believe that, and we must accept with reverence and respect and humility. The Lord above has created us, and there's somebody else is worse off than us. And at least we are privileged. I mean, in this world, I believe that despite what South Africa is going through and all that, the fact is that we got sunshine. We've got, I mean, we still grow some things in the country, and I believe that what goes on must come up. But we're going through a difficult period in South Africa economically. It's a tough period of time, but how
Mm.
do we address the issue? One of the addresses is called the Ceiling of Desires program. One of the Ceiling of Desires programs is that do not buy what you don't need.
Yeah.
I mean, I said last week, decrease expenditure on time, energy, money, and food. So a lot of things that you can do by yourself, for yourself, and do simple chores. People want to go to the gym, but they want to send the car to the car wash. I said
Mm.
if you do your car, you be bending and washing your car, and it's part of your gymming program, right?
Yeah.
And if you go into the garden and you dig into the garden, and it becomes part of your natural gymming.
Yeah. Housework. You need
Housework,
core
yes.
muscles for housework.
Yes, yes, yes. Make your beds at home, and take the curtains down and get it washed every season, whatever it is. You know what I mean? There's lots you can do.
Yeah, and I think that also when you do things in and around your house, that also shifts the energy in the house. So it's not stale, it's not heavy energy. It shifts. So especially if you're looking for change, with Lisa's comment there as well. If you're looking for energy to move around in your house and things to change in your life, I think moving things in your house, washing, taking down, throwing things away that you don't need anymore, donating clothes. I'm not sure if you're very familiar with Feng Shui, Dr. Reddy.
Yes, 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 yes. Great concept. Great
Feng
concept.
Shui, I think. I'm not
Yes,
sure.
yes. Yes, 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 yes. Feng Shui and Vastu principles, right? And the other theory is called the minimalistic
Yeah,
living, right? Right. If you Google
yeah,
minimalism, right, and how it affects the vibration
yeah.
positively, and do not accumulate things, and just rid of things more and more.
Mm,
And the more that we give away, the more we have to give more.
yes,
Hmm.
absolutely. Molly says morning walks are also good. Mm,
Yes, definitely, definitely, and it releases your endorphins,
yeah.
and if a feeling of goodness within you. Certainly, Molly.
Yes, absolutely. Do we have any more
Yeah.
questions for Dr. Reddy while he's here with us? Is there anybody with any
Uh,
questions?
I think while we're waiting, I just want to touch a bit of autism, right, and
Yeah.
which is prevalent more and older children and even the adults as well, right,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of the unique expression of autism, and the many children with autism can live in the world, be in the world, manage themselves in the world, and there's some science to show that inflammatory foods and that we can generate in terms of decreasing their effects on autism. And what I mentioned early on is about the high carbohydrate food, which is inflammatory foods, oily foods, and those kinds of things.
Mm,
Some scientists
mm.
show that we can definitely have a positive effect on autism children.
Yes,
Yeah,
true.
and more what you call is a Mediterranean diet. You're gonna
Mm.
call it.
Yeah. So like fresh foods, salads, things like that.
Yes, 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 yes. And most important thing is that less oily foods. I mean that's and I think that's the critical factor, and more natural eating habits. And I think it's important to understand. So that helps a lot of children in terms of besides ADD, and I think children who are on autism as well. You know, and what's good for the children is berries and green tea and natural
Mm,
oils and things like spinach and black pepper, turmeric, and nuts, and you know these are natural anti-inflammatory foods
mm-hmm.
because autism can be an inflammatory condition.
Yes.
You know.
So, while we still wait for any more comments and questions, since we have you here, Dr. Reddy, we are now in the super moon, super full moon.
Yes.
Some of us going loopy, some of us crying. Do you have any advice before we close off when it comes to full moons? Because our emotions rise up just like water, and sometimes it goes down, and we feel like we thinking all weird thoughts. Any advice for people who are going through the session with a full moon and a super moon?
Yes, I mean it is a known fact that your moon, the light of the moon affects the brain, and because the brain has got a large percentage of water in the brain, and we know that is an effect, on and so we know that how do we meander our way in terms of understanding that, and I think it's important to understand that the percentage of water in the brain is between 80 and 85% of the brain.
Mm,
And in fact, is
yeah,
that well, with the full spectrum of the moon, and that tend to affect um, so-called the water in terms of the flow of water, the hydroflow of the water, as well as the flow, and as well as the gradient of the water, depending on how you sleep and how you do this. And I
yeah.
think that we know for a fact during full moon, people generally have disturbed sleeps, and some
Mm,
people even at night, and how do you control this effect, right? So
yeah.
basically is that what you want to say to yourself, that I think we need to say that we want to not to create a full moon by creating a new moon, for example, right? So that it doesn't affect us a lot in terms of maybe causing with anxiety, bit of depression, of this kinds of thing. So I think that
Yeah.
every phase toward the full moon, I think you need to go into a lot of meditation, a lot of silence, a lot of breathing and breath control. I think these are things that I would advise for people, and most importantly, not to be in an agitated space. Don't watch
Mm,
things which are agitated. Don't listen to too much loud music. Don't too much of fast foods. And I think this is very important to understand that these things happen. I think that and people can wrongly diagnose people during a full moon as bipolar and other psychic conditions, which is perhaps untrue. I think that
yeah.
you are.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I think one needs to understand that, how does a full moon affect my anxiety levels? And, I
Mm,
think, if you know that the full moon is a trigger of anxiety and depression, but, we're not clear from a science perspective, from a lunar cycle affecting our moods, but, it's conjecture to say that the full moon, the brightness affects the water flow within the brain system, and that
mm,
causes some emotional dysfunction. I think we can get that understanding going.
yeah. Wow,
And
thank you
I
so
think that,
much.
sorry.
I'm just saying thank you for that. It's a nice medical explanation of what actually happens to us when there's a full moon or new moon or the lunar cycles.
Yeah, yeah, because there's
Mm.
things about the new moon and the full moon that it can either make you very positive or make you very very negative. So I
Yeah.
think that what I spoke about to handle the situation is that the meditative processes, the music, and your mindset, your orientation. What I
Mm.
mean. And
Yeah.
I think each one of us take responsibility to know that we are part of the laws of nature. We're part
Mm.
of the cycle of the moon. We're part of the sun. We're part of the
Mm.
airflow. Understand that we are the five elements embodied within us to know that
Mm,
we're not different in nature, but
mm,
we are one of the marvels of engineering, of marvels of the world, and generated by the Lord of the universe. We're the more intricate beings of engineering created. So it means that we're intricacy is what we are, but we have the power. It means that to be intricate, but the addendum is that to be simple. If you're
mm.
uncomplicated and simple in life, you have the biggest effect of change in your life.
Yeah,
And the change is always not outside of you. The change is
yeah,
always within you,
yeah.
right?
True.
And you have the capacity, Pranisha, to change.
Mm,
And right, and I always give this thing, right? I think you must have the way you speak, and
mm.
words sweet as nectar. And you
Yeah.
always have calm effect. I said a few weeks ago, mind is
Mm,
cool as the moon, and the heart must be soft as butter.
yes.
And people will respect you and will resonate with you. And once you
Mm,
uh, communicate correctly,
yeah.
and believe there's a saying that if you get angry at any time, you take a cool glass of water, drink it, and lie flat on the floor. Have you ever seen an angry person flat on the floor?
No. I can just imagine everybody with road rage getting out their cars and lying flat on the floor.
Right. So we have to bring everybody down to ground zero.
Yes.
I mean, South Africa needs us. We need you. We need each other in the correct space. We need happy souls. We need to build our country, right?
Yeah.
And we need to build a country. We, not politicians, not the civil servants. We are the people going to build this by changing our own attitude,
Yeah.
right? And this is the
Absolutely.
same that you don't have to oblige always, but you can speak obligingly. So when we all go to work tomorrow, make sure that we speak lovingly and we greet everybody tomorrow, and with a nice, loving way, and said, I wish you to have a lovely, beautiful day. And it's cold, but it's beautiful.
Mm. Yeah. I love that. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Reddy. And thank you for all your wisdom, and you said a lot. So everybody, if you didn't catch, the medicines or the advice, I will be posting this on my page, and Dr. Reddy also has a YouTube channel. You can go follow him, and all his talks are on there as well. So please follow Dr. Reddy on here on TikTok as well. We want to get at least 1,000 follows so we can actually see his face when he's talking to us. So please follow him on YouTube. And this post will be up soon on Dr. Reddy's YouTube, but this will be up tomorrow once I download it and everything. So don't stress if you haven't caught all the medicine names and if people have missed the session. I will post it on my page, Dragon Flame Healing, and then you can then post it to your family. You can share it so we can get all this information out. We can touch as many people as possible, and so that we can tell people that there is help out there, and there are people willing to lend a helping hand, and there's always power in knowledge. So thank you so much, Dr. Reddy, for all that you do for us, and thank you for sharing your time with us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Prenisha, and thanks for Dragon Flame Healing, and I
Mm,
pray and my love to each and every soul that's here in the being of existence, and we're collecting
mm.
energy of love and love to live and love to give and love to share. Thank you.
Thank you so much.